Welcome back to Newsmax. Now, President Obama gets his final State of the Union address in, about 4 hours from right now. Earlier today, though, he actually admitted he has at least one regret about his presidency.
It's a regret. Politics in Washington are so much more divided than the American people are.
How did we get to this point? And the president, is he more focused on his legacy rather than the here and now and what needs to be done in Washington?
All important questions. And joining us now to discuss this matter further and to talk more about the president's final State of the Union address is senior political contributor at Forbes.com, Steele Ungar. Also joining us, political editor for the Washington Examiner, W. James Antle III. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Rick, let's start with you. Reports say the president wants to deliver a kind of a different type of address tonight, avoiding the so-called traditional laundry list in favor for a more broader and theme-like approach. With that in mind, what do you think we can expect to hear from the president?
Well, I think you actually summed it up really well. There's not a lot of point in doing a traditional laundry list when you're going into your last year of your presidency. I think it is going to be broader. I think he's going to start hitting on points that he thinks are a little bit more long-ranging. I think he might even give us some hints as to what may occupy his time after he leaves the White House. I think it's going to be much more of a broad, general statement, and I do think he's going to try very hard to make the point that things are just not as bad as some other candidates would like us to believe that things are in this country, and maybe we need to get our attitudes straightened out a little bit.
Jim, how much pressure do you think will be on Paul Ryan, given the fact that this will be his first debut as Speaker during the State of the Union?
Well, the Speaker doesn't really do all that much during the State of the Union. He's not giving the response. So, I guess the main thing will be, don't cry, don't smirk at inappropriate times. Make sure you're standing and applauding when your party is standing and applauding. I think Ryan has been a little bit different from what we've had in recent speakers in that he is an able communicator of the Republican message himself, whereas Hastert and Boehner and some of the more recent speakers, since Newt Gingrich, really haven't been communicators and really haven't been public figures for the party in quite the same way.
One of the favorite things that pundits and media types like to talk about is the guest list, Jim. When you look at the guest list tonight, some of the notables include Kentucky clerk Kim Davis, the Little Sisters of the Poor, and the co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement, Alicia Garza. They will all be in attendance tonight. There will also be an empty chair referencing some of the refugees, and I guess Steve King of Iowa is also going to not be present in his chair in honor of aborted babies. But does anybody outside of Washington and even outside of Capitol Hill really care about these optic steps that are taken to kind of make a point?
Well,
who are you
I
asking?
think
That was for Jim. We'll get to you, Rick. I have the same question to you right after Jim wraps up.
I think you do get a wider audience than what Congress normally gets for what they're doing. So it is a good opportunity for for members of Congress to highlight issues and causes that are important to them, because you are on TV and it's attracting something of an audience. This State of the Union, especially the final State of the Union of someone's presidency, where there's not going to be a lot of policy that's going to come out of it, probably isn't going to attract the kind of audience that the NFL playoffs are. But it's certainly much larger than what they're accustomed to. So it is a good opportunity, and it's a good way for politicians who are not quite as nationally known to get their brand out there on TV. You notice everybody, whether they like the president or not, really is in a hurry to run up and shake his hand as he walks down the aisle.
Yeah, one of the few places you still see respect for the office, if not for the man, respect for the office. Most of the time, you remember the "you lie" incident with Joe Wilson. But Rick, the optics of all this, James talked about this a little bit, people trying to jockey for position. Some folks get there hours in advance so they can get one of these aisle seats and shake his hand. This does go to show you, though, the lengths that some members of Congress will go to just to be on TV.
Well, I got to tell you, I think and I have to correct you if you don't mind, the empty chair in the president's box isn't going to be for refugees. It's going to be on behalf of dead children from gunshots.
Oh, that's right. I'm
Right.
sorry. Thank you for the correction.
And I think, frankly, that is going to cause more trouble than benefit. You're right. Steve King is leaving his seat open to make the same point about aborted babies. And then there's going to be any number of organizations, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, who could say, well, how come you never left a chair open for our lost loved ones? I think it was a big mistake. I think it's going to overshadow in a major way anything that the president does say. It's one more of what I, unfortunately, although I tend to support this president, am not a big fan of his communications staff. They shouldn't be doing this. It's going to take an undue amount of attention, and he's going to get heat for it, and I think he probably should.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Gentlemen, James Antle, Rick Ungar, thank you both for joining us. And coming up in today's roundtable, Vice President Joe Biden gets candid again. He already admitted he regrets not running for president. Now hear what he really thinks about Hillary Clinton when we come back.